The corridors of Washington were buzzing on September 5th, 2025. Cameras, reporters, and political aides crowded into the Oval Office as President Donald Trump prepared to sign an order that would ignite both symbolism and controversy. The stroke of his pen would officially rebrand the Department of Defense, for decades the nation's shield in policy and practice, into a name echoing America's past, the Department of War. The setting itself amplified the gravity of the moment. The president sat behind the resolute desk, flanked by senior military leaders and his chosen Pentagon chief, Pete Hegseth. Before him lay a single folder embossed with the presidential seal, its contents destined to reshape how America refers to its military establishment. For Trump, this was more than administrative nomenclature. It was an assertion of philosophy, a declaration about America's global stance. As the cameras clicked, Trump lifted his head and spoke deliberately. Donald Trump said, "This order sends a message of victory to the world. We are no longer hiding behind soft language. We are America, and we win wars." The words resonated like a manifesto. Where past administrations leaned toward the language of defense, Trump insisted on a vocabulary of strength, power, and conquest. The room grew still as he signed his name across the page, transforming decades of tradition into a new chapter. Beside him, Pete Hegseth, the newly christened Secretary of War, nodded in approval. The change in title was immediate, almost theatrical. The Defense Secretary recast in a role last used before 1949, when the Pentagon was reorganized in the aftermath of World War II. Historians and observers quickly drew comparisons to earlier eras. The Department of War was the original cabinet-level office responsible for the United States Army after independence. By reintroducing the name, Trump was reviving a legacy long abandoned in the pursuit of diplomacy and defense-oriented language. The president, however, was unapologetic. Donald Trump said, "We are reviving history because history teaches us strength. This is the America that defeated fascism, the America that stood tall in World War II, and the America that will never bow to its enemies." The symbolism was deliberate. To Trump and his allies, the word war did not signal aggression but authenticity. To his critics, it risked escalating tensions and projecting an image of belligerence abroad. The Oval Office that day became both a stage and a battlefield of ideas. The carefully arranged scene, the president at the center, Hegseth at his side, flags lining the room, was meant to convey continuity between America's historic military triumphs and the current administration's posture. Yet observers noted the calculated theatrics. The signing ceremony, announced only hours earlier, drew select reporters and pooled cameras. Every shot, every phrase, every gesture was designed for global broadcast. Donald Trump said, "To every ally, to every adversary watching, remember this: we are not the Department of Excuses. We are the Department of War. That is who we are, and that is who we will always be." Pete Hegseth, now wearing the mantle of Secretary of War, leaned into the moment with his own remarks. He praised the president's decision as restoring clarity to America's military mission. Pete Hegseth said, "For too long, we've allowed language to dilute our purpose. The men and women in uniform don't serve to defend abstract concepts. They serve to win. And now, with this order, our department reflects that truth." His words echoed Trump's narrative that victory, not merely defense, defines the essence of American military power. Within minutes, the phrase Department of War was trending across media platforms, sparking debates in Washington think tanks, university halls, and veteran associations. Outside the White House, reaction was swift and polarized. Supporters of Trump framed the change as bold, unapologetic leadership. To them, the renaming restored pride and projected unshakable resolve. Critics, however, warned of dangerous consequences. They argued that the language of war could undermine diplomacy, alienate allies, and embolden rivals like Russia, China, or Iran. Some feared it would erode decades of efforts to present America as a stabilizing rather than destabilizing global force. Defense analysts pointed out that terminology matters. By altering the label of the Pentagon, Trump had reshaped not only domestic perception but international interpretation of America's intentions. The move also carried echoes of Trump's first administration. He had long railed against what he described as America's forever wars, even as he increased military budgets and ordered high-profile strikes. His rhetoric often oscillated between promises of withdrawal and declarations of dominance. Donald Trump said, "We took on ISIS, we took on terrorism, and we won. Now we carry that legacy forward under the banner of war, because war is what our enemies bring and war is what we will finish." This blend of triumphalism and defiance was vintage Trump, a performance designed to reassure supporters that he was rewriting rules while daring opponents to challenge him. Internationally, the announcement reverberated quickly. In NATO capitals, diplomats scrambled to interpret its meaning. Was this a symbolic gesture aimed at energizing Trump's political base or a substantive shift in America's defense doctrine? In Moscow, Russian commentators seized on the news, arguing it proved their long-held view that America is inherently militaristic. In Beijing, state media suggested the renaming exposed the true nature of US policy, yet Trump remained undeterred. Donald Trump said, "We don't play games with words anymore. Our adversaries will not mistake weakness for strength. This is the clearest signal America has ever sent." The announcement also rippled through domestic politics. Congressional leaders split along familiar partisan lines. Republican allies hailed the move as a return to realism, while Democrats accused the president of dangerous theatrics. Veterans groups were similarly divided. Some applauded the recognition of warfighters' sacrifices. Others feared the shift could cheapen the cause of peace. Media outlets pored over the details of the order itself, dissecting whether the renaming would affect command structures, budgets, or operational mandates. Early indications suggested it was largely symbolic, yet symbolism in politics often carries the weight of substance. Observers framed the decision within Trump's broader strategy of redefining institutions. From his first presidency through his current term, he has consistently sought to stamp his identity on government, whether through personnel changes, executive orders, or rhetorical rebranding. Donald Trump said, "We are not afraid of words. We are not afraid of history. We embrace it and we make it ours." The Department of War, in this sense, was not only about the military, it was about Trump's vision of America itself, proud, victorious, and unapologetic. As the ceremony wound down, Trump handed the freshly signed order to Hegseth. The cameras captured the exchange, a handshake, a smile, and a declaration that the Department of War was, once again, part of America's government. Donald Trump said, "This is a new day for America. We are the Department of War, and we will always win." The phrase, delivered with characteristic flourish, became the headline carried across networks that evening. In just a few minutes inside the Oval Office, Trump managed to rewrite a chapter of American history, reignite political debate, and project a new, or perhaps old, identity for the United States military establishment. For supporters, it was a bold reminder of America's warrior spirit. For critics, it was a dangerous step backward into a more aggressive era. Either way, the message was clear. Under Trump, words matter, and the word now etched into America's military identity is war.